Hey guys, welcome back. Bomb here, and it has been a minute since I've uploaded a video. Forgive me for the lack of uploads, just because family is home and New Year's, and I've actually been having a lot of family drama, being kicked out and everything like that. So I haven't been able to record as much as I would like to. If you guys watch the streams or keep up with the streams, you probably know all the reasons behind it. But today we're going to be doing our buy or bulk series. First things first, be sure to drop a like for a video. It's always greatly appreciated. I know you guys really like these buy or bulk series, and with Ultra Prism just like a couple weeks away, coming out on February 2nd, I figured I might as well record this video now so you guys have an idea of what you should and shouldn't get, what is worthless and not worthless, so things like that. So drop a like if you haven't already, subscribe, share, and we're gonna go right into this. Now I do have a list. It is a long list because usually these videos are a lot longer than I would like them to be, but there's a lot in this list. So I'm not gonna go through every card like I usually do. I'm just gonna skip straight to the cards that I feel like are worth mentioning. Now, and I do have about 40 cards that I do want to talk about. And shout out once again, shout out to Pokebeach. Let me actually get rid of this real quick. I don't know why the follow goal is there. It should be over here. There we go. Problem solved. Alright, cool. We're going to get right into this. First things first, Torterra. We're getting a fighting type Torterra, but right now I don't think it's worth mentioning. 100 HP stage 2 is okay, but its attacks are a little bit too expensive. And it's hard to pair it with Venusaur because you're playing it with two stage 2s. So and its earthquake damages do 180 and damage your whole bench for 20. I guess you can combo that in some particular ways, but I don't think it's worth it. So Torterra getting a negative from me. Cherrim though, Cherrim is something I would probably grab yourself a 2 of, maybe like a 2/2 line of Cherrim. Cherrim's ability is Weather Guard, which means each of your grass Pokemon has no weakness. If fire becomes really prevalent in the future, you're gonna wish you had these cards. So if I were you, I would try to hold on to a 2/2 line of Cherubi Cherrim. There's not really too much to talk about with Cherubi. It's low HP, its attack is worthless, but it's just nice to have that ability on your bench to protect your grass Pokemon, because if grass Pokemon become really strong, because we have access to Venusaur and stuff like that. We also have Leafeon in this set as well. So we have a lot of good grass types, but if they become like super duper powerful in the future, it'll be nice to be able to get rid of their weaknesses in case fire is also really powerful. So definitely grab yourselves a couple of Cherrim. And speaking of Leafeon, Leafeon is the next card I do want to mention. We do have Glaceon GX here. I don't know if you guys have been coming to the stream, but I've been loving playing around with Leafeon. I think Leafeon is a lot of fun. We've been playing some Leafeon Decidueye, Leafeon Lurantis, and hopefully I can meet up with my buddy Stephen today and we can record some IRL deck testing, and then we can do some deck profiles with what we have ideas of so far. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of Leafeon. Leafeon's attack, which is a main focus, is his GX attack, Grand Bloom GX. For each basic Pokemon on your bench, search your deck for a card that evolves from that Pokemon and put it onto your bench, onto that Pokemon. So it counts as evolving. So if you were to go second, you could evolve all your basics into stage 1s before you should be able to, which is really prevalent if you're playing things like Zoroark. You can evolve your Zoras to Zoroark GXs, your Rowlets to Dartrixes, which is the biggest one right now. I personally love Lurantis, so you can evolve your Leafeon, your Fomantises into Lurantises, your Bulbasaur into Ivysaur, and that just gives you more HP, so it's harder for your opponent to knock out, and it gives you a turn 2 stage 2 evolutions for a lot of these cards without the need for rare candy, which actually does help your consistency in the deck a lot whenever you don't have to run into rare candy, because rare candies are pretty useless unless you have to use them that turn. So I like Leafeon a lot, but Leafeon's ability is something that you shouldn't sleep on either. First, Leafeon has Nature's Breath. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you may heal 50 damage from one of your Pokemon with energy attached. That's really cool, because what I'm kind of doing is like Leafeon Lurantis, but with bulky like Lurantis has that attack, that Solar Blade, I think, which heals you from 30. And if you combine that with Leafeon being inactive, you can heal for another 50. That's 80 healing. If you pair that with just straight Leafeon attacking, so you play the Sunny Day Lurantis on your bench to increase your damage output, combined with Choice Band. I mean, you're hitting for 110 for grass DC. It's not bad. 140 with a Choice Band and 170 with two Sunny Day Lurantises. That's a pretty good amount to hit. And then if you're going between two Leafeons, and that's healing 100 damage a turn on whatever Pokemon you want, that's pretty cool. So Leafeon's something I definitely want to play with. I definitely want to play with like a 4/3 line of Leafeon with like some Sunny Day Lurantises and other tech options. I think it's really cool. I like it a lot. We got Rotoms here. Now, Rotoms, I'm not the biggest fan of. I think they're pretty cool if you play Gourgeist. So if you're a Gourgeist fan, I think it's definitely worth hanging on to. The Rotoms have the ability, if there are 9 or more tool cards in your discard pile, ignore the attack cost. So there's a bunch of different Rotoms in this set. Hopefully we can run into all of them. But they all have free attacks more or less, which is cool because they hit for different types, which means that you can hit for knockouts on different Pokemon. The awkward thing about Rotom Mo is that it only hits 60. Its ability is discard a special energy from your opponent's active Pokemon, but it's really awkward that it hits 60 because with Cynthia in the format now, Greninja could potentially be a problem. And if this hit for 70, it would have been a lot better. But unfortunately, you don't even knock out regular Greninja since you can't increase the damage output with Choice Band. I'm not the biggest fan of these Rotom cards, but it's something at the very least. We have Shaman here. Shaman might be something that people play. I know people were talking to me how they really want to try this out on Rainbow Road. It has Beacon. Search your deck up to 3 basic Pokemon of different types and put them onto your bench. So it's the same Beacon that Vulpix has, except it's a lot better. But it's a cost and energy to use, unlike Vulpix's free attack. I mean, it's fine because you're going to have to retreat this thing anyway, so you have to attach to retreat. But now you're forced to lead with it, unlike before where you could like not lead with Vulpix and then retreat the Pokemon by an energy attachment and then attack for free. But Beacon's worth it. I mean, Beacon could be worth it depending on the deck you're playing. You're putting 3 different Pokemon from your discard pile, or from your deck to your bench. That's a powerful Bridget, but they have to be different types. Now, there's a lot of decks that can get away with it, but there's some decks that can't. Like, one example is Leafeon Lurantis that we were just talking, or Leafeon Zoroark. You can put down a Eevee, Zorua, and a Rowlet from your deck to your bench. So Shaman might be worth holding on to. I'm going to definitely get a playset myself just to see if I can play around with it in the future. But I think that's all of the grass types. If we move on to fire types, there's not really too much to talk about. Infernape is something worth mentioning. Another thing worth mentioning is that in the SM5 Plus in Japan, which is probably our SM6 set, they have different types for all of these Sinnoh starters. And Infernape become a fighting type, which is probably going to make this card more prevalent. But being fire isn't that bad either, just because you have Volcanion and stuff like that to help accelerate. But Infernape is pretty cool. You have the ability Hot-Blooded Fighter. Your opponent's active Pokemon take 6 damage counters from burn between turns, and that's pretty cool. We also have Entei GX from Shiny Legends, which burns your opponent for 3 energies. It's a basic as well, so you can pair that with Volcanion. I don't really like the idea of it, but like you could increase the damage output with Volcanion EX and then burn and then keep this on your bench, and they would take 6 circuit damage counters between turns. And with the burn effects, with the new burn mechanics, they would have to take the damage. So at least the first time. But of course you can't guarantee it because it is coin flips and that's always awkward. Burst Punch does burn your opponent as well. The only issue I have with this card is that it's a stage 2 with only 130 HP. That's so low right now, and it's not as good as Greninja, and it can get away with it, or have like a Greninja break. There's no Infernape break right now, so I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of Infernape, but if you want to play around with Burn in the future, you feel like Burn might become super powerful in the future, then definitely grab yourself a couple of those, get yourself a playset. There's Rotom Heat. 80 damage is a lot more like it, being able to hit 110 with Choice Band and 220 if you hit something super effective. So I like Rotom Heat a lot more. So, and it's 90 HP, which is cool. I think they're all 90 HP now that I think about it. Salazzle is pretty lame. I don't like that much. Burning Poison, your opponent active Pokemon is Burn, Poison, and Confuse. For single fire energy is not that bad. I think I'd still rather play Hot Poison though. Assassin's Nail, 60 damage, plus if your opponent's active Pokemon is affected by special edition, does a 60 more damage. 120 for 2 energy is not bad, but it's still like overall the stats on this Pokemon are pretty low, so I don't think it's really worth playing too much. What else is there to talk about? I think that's all of the fire stuff that's worth talking about. We can move on to Dark. These are all lame. Sneasel Weavile is actually pretty interesting. If you guys saw stream yesterday, I haven't actually uploaded the stream. The stream that I did yesterday will be uploaded probably later today or tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. But we did build Weavile Zoroark, so it looks like a lot of fun. It looks very consistent, looks very powerful, and I can't wait to show you guys. But Sneasel over here this is interesting. I think it's a Sneasel worth playing. I'm pretty sure it's the only Sneasel that has 70 HP. I could be wrong about that, but it is a high HP Sneasel, first of all. And its attack is pretty interesting. You can use this attack only if you go second and only on your first turn. Discard an energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon. So if you were to go second on the first turn, then you can discard any energy from any Pokemon. That's pretty nice. It slows down your opponent, and it's just overall good. So definitely this is the Sneasel 2 play. The other Sneasel's attacks are relatively worthless, which is why it's worth mentioning that this is the Sneasel 2 play. Ambush is 10 plus 20 if you flip heads, so it's pretty lame. But overall, I like that Sneasel a lot. I think the retreat cost is 1. That's good. All right. And then Weavile is really powerful. I like Weavile a lot. Icy Wind is already pretty useful on its own because it puts your opponent to sleep, and putting your opponent to sleep is always good for stalling. But Dark Command is the main reason to play this Weavile. This attack does 50 damage, and 50 damage times the number of your opponent's Pokemons with abilities. Now, that's strong in a lot of different matchups. It's hilarious against Decidueye because their Decidueyes, their Zolwarks, their Leafeons, their Lele's, all their Pokemon on their bench will have abilities. So if you have a Pokemon with if your opponent has a full bench with just Pokemon with abilities, you're doing 300 damage before Choice Band. That's nutty. But in your stereotypical matchups, right? Your opponent has some Lele's down. Most decks run with abilities. I can't think of many prevalent decks in the format right now that don't use abilities. Listpod Zolwark obviously plays Zolwark. They have Lele's as well. Most decks play Lele's. Even Greninja Breaks have abilities. What else? The only one that I could see being a problem is like Dusk main Necrozma with Magnezone. But Magnezone has abilities. They have to keep the Magnezone on the bench, and they're most likely going to play Lele. So you can at least hit 100 for 1 energy. So that by itself is really powerful. 130 with a Choice Band, you're a 1 prize attacker to a KOing these monstrous Pokemon. That's something worth mentioning as well. And of course, you pair with Zolwark. You probably wouldn't play the other Weavile to go with it because there's not really a point, especially since you're probably gonna be hitting your own Zolwarks. Excuse me, that was a powerful yawn. I know that half of you guys yawned with me. I do apologize for that. But I love Weavile. I can't wait to play around with it. Weavile's always been one of my favorite Pokemon to play around with in the TCG, so I can't wait to see what we can do with it. Darkrai Prism Star is one of our new Pokemon with the new Prism Star mechanics, and I really, really like this black outline. I hope they give it to us in America like this. That's so dope. I never even noticed that till now. But Darkrai Prism is pretty cool. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to your bench, you may attach 2 Dark Energy from your hand to this Pokemon. Turbo Dark's not really a thing in Standard, but we can make it a thing in Expanded, and that's pretty dope. The reason why I like this card in Turbo Dark and Expanded is because you have a lot of situations where you're probably going to Sycamore the turn, or you're going to shuffle, but you have all this energy in your hand you don't want to lose. You don't want to put them in the discard pile because you already have enough in the discard pile. This is where you just Ultra Ball for a Darkrai, you put it down, and then you can play 2 energies with it before you have your manual attachment. Then you can play your sports for the turn. It's another cool option for a Max Elixir target, a Dark Patch target, and a Ninja Boy target. I know that other people are talking about this, but you can literally Ninja Boy into a Guzzlord GX if you wanted to, because you already have like 3 energies on it if you manually attach for the turn onto it. So that's pretty powerful. Its attack is Abyssal Sleep, 120 damage, and if your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep, which is pretty powerful, and then your opponent flips 2 coins instead of 1 between turns. Now, it's a 4 energy attack for 120. I'm not the biggest fan of that. Overall, Darkrai is a cool Prism card. I don't think it's very good in Standard right now, but it has some merit in Expanded. Turbo Dark's an awkward place because Zolwark is an issue, and then because Zolwark being an issue, fighting is an issue, and then you suffer from both of those things. So I'm not saying Turbo Dark is good right now, but it is a fun toy in Turbo Dark, something to keep your eye on. Alolan Diglett and Alolan Dugtrio are pretty fun, interesting cards. The only issue is you're a stage 1 with 60 HP. You're a stage 1 with 60 HP. That's a little bit ridiculous. But Ironhead is cool. They both have free attacks and 1 retreat cost, so that's something worth mentioning. Ironhead is flip a coin until you get tails. Attack does 10 more damage for each heads. I guess you could technically get 1,000,000 damage with this, who knows. Anyways, Alolan Dugtrio is where it's at. I actually like the idea of an Alolan Dugtrio deck. I just hate that you're a stage 1 with 60 HP. What kind of BS is that? Anyways, for every metal energy you discard from your hand, you can do 30 damage. So that's pretty cool because we have access to Mount Coronet, a stadium card that lets you put 2 energies from your discard pile to your hand, 2 metal energies in particular. And we'll talk about that card later. I think it's broken. And we have access to cards like Starmie, which is discard 1 card from your hand and put 2 energies from your discard pile to your hand. So you could get 4 energies into your hand pretty much every turn at minimum if you have 1 Starmie and 1 Mount Coronet in the field. Obviously you can have more than 1, but you have ways to like Field Blower and then play it back down. That's another 2 for the turn. You could have multiple Starmies on the board at any given time. But being able to do 120 for free is really cool. Now obviously you have to pay energy, but a non-GX attacker that can do a lot of damage like this is pretty dope, because with a Choice Band you're doing 150. If you were to discard 5 energies, you're doing you're doing 180. You have access to Fisherman as well, so you have supporters that can put energies into your hand. You have Energy Retrieval, you have Professor's Letter. There's options. So Alolan Duck Trio could be a fun deck I play around with, and I do want to write that down. Obviously, I don't think it's good because you're a 60 HP Pokemon. I have to make sure that's you're very aware that you are a 60 HP Pokemon. But overall, the deck seems like a lot of fun. Now for the new Magnemites. Now, I do want to talk about both of these Magnemites. I've heard from Little Birdies, aka my buddy Pat, he's been showing up to streams a lot, that he really likes the Magnetic Search Magnemite, and I can see some merit into liking it. One retreat cost isn't bad if you're going to be bringing energy back into your hand all the time with Mount Cornet. Being able to search your deck for 3 metal energies both helps you thin your deck for top decks and gives you energies into your hand. Like, that's never bad. So I know he likes this one. Hard Unit's really cool in case cards like Coco come back into popularity. It protects your Pokemon, it protects your Magnemite from your bench. It takes no damage from attacks. So obviously you still get damage from Decidueye, but Magnemite's not a thing. I'm still a fan of playing the Electric Magnemite from Breakthrough that gives you free retreat if you have another Magnemite on the bench. But this is really, you have a lot of options now, which is always nice. Options are always nice. Magneton, it's 90 HP, which is the reason why you should play it. Other than that, it's not very prevalent. And then you have Magnezone here. It's Deluge Blastoise, 150 HP Pokemon. Does 130 damage, but you can't use Zap Cannon during your next turn, which is something worth mentioning because 130 does knock out Hoopa, Shining Legends Hoopa, and Alolan Ninetales with the Lumious Barrier, or whatever it's called. So you can get past those non-GX EX attackers with this card. And once again, the most important part is ability. As often as you like during your turn, you may attach a metal energy from your hand to this one of your Pokemon. So combine that with the Dusk and Necrozma, which we will be talking about soon, and you've got a powerhouse of a deck. So it's definitely worth getting these, because if you ever run into those Necrozmas, you're gonna wish you could play that deck. It's so powerful. Bastiodon, I don't like it. We have a new mechanic for fossils. Like, there's only one fossil card now that can evolve into all these other fossils, but I still think it's bad. Excuse me. Sorry, I did just wake up to record this video for you guys. Anyways, Bastiodon has the ability Earth Shield, prevent all damage done to your metal Pokemon from attacks of your opponent's Pokemon with any special energies attached to them. It's really powerful. The only issue is that it's hard to set up because you have to get the fossil out, then you have to evolve the fossil, then you have to go directly into Bastiodon. Now, to be fair, you can rare cannon the fossil directly into Bastiodon, but you're playing all those cards just for a tech option in your metal decks that you usually don't even have to worry about, because metal decks aren't really worried about that. It's something worth mentioning. We'll see in the future, but I don't think it's a very good card. I wouldn't worry too much about it. We have Heatran, and here it is. We got Solgaleo Prism Star. This is arguably the best Prism Star in the set. 160 HP basic Pokemon. Prism Star means you can only play a one-of copy of this in your deck. You can play as many Prism Stars as you like in the deck, but you can only play a one-of copy of each one. So something worth mentioning. But we do have the ability, the attack, my bad, Rising Star. This is really good in that Magnezone Necrozma deck I was talking about. In case your opponent Garbodors you or knocks out your Magnezone, you have this option in the back here. For each of your opponent's Pokemon in play, attach a metal energy from your discard pile to one of to your Pokemon in any way you like. So it's an attack that can force energy attachments, and your opponent generally wants to knock this Pokemon out because they don't want you to spam this, because that's really bad for your opponent. But being able to attach 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 energies from your discard pile to your Pokemon in any way you like is already really powerful. And then you have a good non-GX attacker in it as well. Corona Impact does 160 damage, 190 with Choice Band. You can't attack with this Pokemon during your next turn, and it's not awful. With all the metal support we have, attaching 4 energies to Solgaleo is not that bad. And it's a one prize attacker as well, which is always really powerful. Now here's a Duskmane Necrozma I've been talking about. This card is absolutely bonkers, wild, stupid. 190 HP basic is already really powerful. And then you have Claw Slash, which is pretty relevant because you can hit for 60 damage, putting things in range for other Pokemon. It's all for 3 colorless, and yeah. But we have Meteor Tempest, that's the main thing to talk about. 220 damage. For 4 energies, which is not that bad. You're discarding 3 energies from this Pokemon, which there are ways to like mitigate that. Once again, we have Mount Cornet, we have Magnezone, we have all sorts of different options to put these energies back into your hand and reattach as many as you like per turn. But being able to hit 220 damage, that knocks out pretty much everything. If you're the Choice Band, it does knock out everything. There's nothing I can think of that could resist. Actually, I think somebody was telling me about it. I think Xurkitree GX has 180 HP. And then if you attach a Fighting Fury Bell, you're doing 220. And if you have the Aether Paradise Conversation area, you're taking, I think, 30 less damage. So I think you still get knocked out because your opponent hits 250 with a choice band. Never mind. Forget anything. Yeah. There's not much. I don't think there's anything in the game that can survive a Meteor Tempest with a choice band. Also, if you're not too worried about knocking out things like the Decidueye, you could also play Fighting Fury Belt to give yourself more HP. We are going to have that Frying Pan out card that's dumb, that removes your weakness and means you take 30 less damage from attacks as well. It's all something worth mentioning. It is a little bit less powerful as far as avoiding Okos than playing Belt, but you do lose a weakness. But that's in the next set. We don't have to talk about that right now. Meteor Tempest is powerful, destroys everything. It's just the Goliath of a Pokemon. And then we have Eclipse GX, 250 damage. The attack can only be used if you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent. Which means if your opponent takes knockouts early and you don't want to lose your energy and you want to attack with one less energy, Eclipse GX is pretty powerful. You are going to be put in position a lot, but most of the time, if you were going to be playing this Dusk main deck, you're probably going to be playing this Dialga GX, which has one of the best, if not the best, GX attacks in the game. 180 HP Dragon-type Pokemon being weak to Fairy, which isn't even prevalent, especially if you're playing the Metal deck, because your opponent loses regardless. And you have some pretty interesting attacks on this Dialga as well. 180 HP with the attack clock up for Metal Energy, draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. It's really, really good early game setup in these decks that I was talking about, because after you bridge it, after you play whatever cards you play in your hand's a little bit less, your hand's a little bit empty. You just use clock up, draw until you have 6 cards in your hand, and then boom, you're set for the following turn. If your opponent ends you, you're being end to 6. So Dialga GX already useful for that. Shred is cool. It hits past Safeguard Pokemon. It hits past Pokemon that have effects that usually you wouldn't be able to attack, including things like Jolteon. So Shred is pretty powerful for that reason. And then you have Timeless GX, which is insanely bonkers. 150 damage. Once this turn is over, it's your turn again. So you can skip your opponent's turn by attacking, which is insanity. Because with a choice band, you're hitting 180. You knock out a lot of Pokemon, including Tapu Leles, which your opponent will probably have on the bench at some point. So you attach your 3 metals, your DCE, or your 5 metals if you're not playing DCs, and you Guzma up a Lele, and then you just attack it with Timeless GX. You take 2 prizes, and then your opponent can't draw. Your opponent can't play the next turn, which means they can't end you to a smaller hand, which means they can't retaliate whatsoever, which means they can't prepare themselves for the onslaught, because then you get to go again, retreat this Dialga, go into the other go into your Necrozma on your bench, and then start attaching all these energies to it, because this is another turn you get the chance to use Mount Cornet, another turn you get to play a supporter, and then take another knockout. So before your opponent can even go, you've taken 4 prize cards in a lot of different scenarios. So Dialga GX is absolutely insanely stupid. Stupid. I'm not a fan, but it's a really powerful card, so definitely get yourself a couple of these. And see if there's anything else worth talking about. We have a Colorless Rotom, which has Tapu Koko's attack, but for free. So that's something worth mentioning. We do have this Oranguru. You can pair it with Looker. We'll talk about Looker when we get to it. But you can put any 3 cards from your discard pile to the bottom of your deck in any order you like. And if you combine that with Looker, you get to draw the 3 cards from the bottom of your deck. That's what Looker does. So if you're playing Heatmore Raichu, it is a powerful, powerful version of Heatmore Raichu. That's the support you play for the turn to get back your cards like De-Evolution Spray and things like that into your hand without the need to flip with the Heatmore. So I do think this replaces the Heatmore and Heatmore Raichu. That's what I think. I don't play Heatmore Raichu, so I wouldn't know too much. Mysterious Fossil is the fossil I'm talking about. This is the new fossil mechanic, so you just play this Pokemon down to 60 HP Pokemon whenever you put it onto your bench. Your opponent can take a prize from it, but it does evolve into all of your fossils, and I think that's going to be a mechanic they use from now on, which is already really nice. Palpad is here, Palpad is back, and Palpad is stronger than ever. Without VS Seeker in the format and with no signs of it ever coming back, we have an ability to reuse our supporters by shuffling them into the deck instead of putting them directly to our hand, which is really good because that means you can reuse your Guzmas, your Acerolas, your draw supporters if you're running low on them, put them back into your deck, maybe Lele for them later. Maybe draw into them later. So I like Palpad a lot. Where it's going to fit in the meta, we're not too sure yet. We'll see. Because in most cases, because of how aggressive you usually have to be in the game, you're probably going to play that extra copy of a supporter over playing the Palpad. But there's some decks like Zoroark decks where they're just drawing a bunch using the ability, where they don't mind discarding their supporters and then shuffling back into the deck later. So Palpad's pretty good for that. regardless, I would definitely get yourself 2 or 3 pal pads, maybe even 4 pal pads if you're just now getting in the game. So definitely get every your pal pads. Nest Ball is being reprinted, Pokecatcher is being reprinted. Missing Clover is absolute booty cheeks, and I would never recommend anybody play this card. you may either play 1 Missing Clover or 4 Missing Clover at the same time. If you play 1 Missing Clover, look at the top card of your deck, return to the top, and then return to the top of your deck. If you're playing 4 Missing Clover, take a prize card. That's dumb, because when are you ever going to be put in a position to where you have 4 Missing Clovers into your deck? And if you do play a deck that's all about putting any 4 copies of your deck into your hand, you should probably focus on putting 4 copies of a card that can help you attack and win the game, and take maybe like 2 prizes at once instead of 1. You know what I mean? I don't like Missing Clover. I think it's dumb. Cyrus, I'm kind of in the same boat for Cyrus. Cyrus is another Prism Star card, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. Only because we play a lot of Lele's. We'll see what happens in this Glaceon format. We'll talk about Glaceon here shortly. But Cyrus has the effect that if your active Pokemon is Water and Metal, your opponent chooses 2 of their bench Pokemon, and then they have to shuffle all their other bench Pokemon and all cards attached to them into their deck. So there's gonna be situations where that's super duper 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 useful. Say your opponent has the dream setup. Like I had this at a tournament recently. The dream setup where they have 3 Decidueyes on the bench, 2 Zoroark GXs on the bench, and 1 Zoroark GX in the active. Well, you can really neuter them by forcing them to shuffle in a bunch of Pokemon that they don't want to shuffle in. But if we're going to be realistic here, most of the time your opponent has Lele's on their bench, and they're going to shuffle in their Lele's so that they can reuse them later, or they can shuffle in damaged Pokemon or anything. So in a realistic world, Cyrus is just like a one-of that you don't really have the space for in a deck, because there's too many situations where your opponent won't be able to where your opponent won't be put in a position to where Cyrus wouldn't be that disruptive. So that's why I feel about Cyrus. I don't think it's that good. It might be good in the future though. I do think it's interesting in Glaceon, because Glaceon, your opponent usually can't play down Lele's, or they won't play down Lele's in their Glaceon matchups, because like their Lele's won't be active because they can't use it because of Glaceon's ability. So that's something worth mentioning. Maybe Cyrus is good in that, but we'll see. Gardenia is something that I found really interesting. I did talk about Leafeon earlier today. I think if you're playing, I think this is something to look at if you're playing a bulky Leafeon deck, because you can heal some more. That's 80 extra HP to heal as a supporter card. That's pretty powerful. You don't have to disrupt. You don't have to play max potions and remove all your energies, when you could just heal your Pokemon for 80 on top of Leafeon's ability and on top of any other things that you got going on the board. So I think Gardenia is something worth looking into if you do plan on playing Leafeon. We have a reprint of Pokemon Fan Club, so I'm guessing we're never getting Bridger back. Obviously, I don't think we should ever get Bridger back. We have Mars. Mars is pretty interesting. I don't know how I feel about it per se, because I want to try it out first. But discard 2 cards and draw 2 cards, and then discard a random card from your opponent's hand. There are going to be situations where your opponent don't have that many cards in their hand, and it's going to be really nice to be able to play Mars and disrupt them while accelerating yourself. So I think Mars is really interesting if you play Disruption. Definitely grab yourself 1 or 2 of these just to like have until we can figure out if it's good or not, honestly. Mount Cornet, everybody have 4. Everyone that ever wants to play Metal, grab yourself a 4 of Count of Mount Cornet, because this card's really busted. Once during your turn, you may put 2 Metal Energies from your discard pile into your hand. This is the card that made me really mad that Necrozma, Solgaleo, and Metagross were all printed. Because by themselves, they're fine. Your opponent's forced to play Energy Retrieval, maybe even play Starmie. But when you have a Mount Cornet to pair with all those cards, giving yourself a lot more consistency, that's whenever I get a little bit miffed, a little bit angry. Mount Cornet is extremely powerful in those decks and definitely worth holding on to. So DCE, whatever. This card provides 2 C energy. I love these guys. Unit energy. It's an energy that provides both grass, fire, and water, but only 1 at any given moment. So I don't know what. These are cards you should definitely have a 4 of these unit energies, because you never know what cards in the future will come out that means, ooh, I really want to play this card. You know what I mean? So right now I can't think of anything that pairs really well with these. I know somebody was telling me the Simi monkeys, Seismitoad, I almost said Seismitoad, Simipour, Panpour, I don't know what they're called. The monkeys, they have something interesting going on. I haven't looked into it, but somebody was mentioning it to me at the stream the other day. So I maybe look into that, but definitely these are potential cards. Grab yourself 4 of them. have these high rolling full arts. These full arts are looking mighty fine, if I do say so myself. If anybody wants to donate some cards to me, I'll hook you up. I got you if you do. Moving on to this part of the set. Obviously in America we'll get both sets combined, but in Japan they separate them, so it's worth mentioning. Alolan Sandslash is worth mentioning. 120 HP is actually not bad for a stage 1. It beats 60. I'm forever gonna be salty about Doug Trio, but its attacks is pretty interesting. For a free attack, you're doing 30 damage, and if this Pokemon is damaged by an attack during your opponent's next turn, place 6 damage counters on that. It's on the attacking Pokemon. So you're forcing your opponent to Guzma a lot, which is really cool. We have another Alolan Sandslash in Sun Moon base, I believe it is, where your opponent, where you literally just draw an extra card per turn. So you have some actual consistency, draw supporter like things going on in your deck when you're playing Alolan Sandslash on top of it. So I think this deck could be really fun. This could be a new version of Disruption that you play. Some supporters like Team Rocket Handiwork, Team Flare Grunt, things like that disrupt your opponent while you're hitting them for chip 30, and if they ever damage you, they're taking 60 damage. So it's pretty cool. I like the idea. And you can play, once again, it's just a deck you can play with no energies because it's a free attack, and there's nothing, your opponent can't turn off the ability of a free attack. You just always have a free attack. So that's pretty dope in my opinion. We have Piplups, Printplups, Empoleon. I love Empoleon, guys. If you guys want to talk about potential in a deck, this is a potential in a deck. This is a very powerful card. Empoleon has 160 HP stage 1, weak to electric, which is something worth mentioning because grass is a problem because of Glitchxcity, but electric's not a problem. There's not many very powerful electric type cards. I guess there is a possibility of Raichu becoming a thing, which I'll talk about when we get to Pachirisu, but but overall, there's not many powerful electric cards in the format that can take advantage of any support because there's not really a lot of electric support right now. But that being said, you have really powerful attacks in this Empoleon, being Total Command, which has 20 damage times the number of Pokemon on each player's bench. Now, I know if you guys have been playing Pokemon recently, but I have. And I've noticed that my opponent likes to bench a lot of Pokemon. We're in a format where there's a lot of Pokemon that have to be on the bench for support, whether it's Lele's. A lot of people are playing Zoroarks, which you would generally want 2 or 3 Zoroarks on the bench. As well as Pokemon they have set up on the bench in case your active Pokemon gets knocked out. There's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different Pokemon you have on your bench, and then you can control your own bench size. You can play a 5-bench Pokemon. You can have 2 Empoleons, a couple of Octilleries, and Lele's or whatever you want to play. So you can pretty much do 100 damage very easily on your own, and that's assuming your opponent has no bench Pokemon. So for a watercolorist, and we do have Aqua Patch, it's very easy to put off some big damage, hitting up to 200, 230 with a Choice Band. That's very powerful. So I think Empoleon is a wonderful single prize attacker. Definitely a deck I'm going to be playing around with. Then we have Whirlpool, 90 damage and discard an energy for pros active Pokemon. If you're in a position to where you don't have that many bench Pokemon, you're not going to be doing an Oko, but you're still going to be doing a 2KO with Whirlpool, definitely do it, because like you're discarding energy from your pros active Pokemon. You're disrupting, and it's only 3 energies, and once again, we do have Aqua Patch. So we're always going to be able to set these things up. You also have access to Splash Energy, which means that if your opponent does get knocked out, you can just hit the whole line back into your hand and then set them up on the bench again. There's a bunch of really powerful combinations you have with Empoleon, and I do like Empoleon a lot. Anyways, I've been ranting a lot. I gotta make this video faster. I think Abomasnow's pretty garbage. I don't think it's bad, but it's not that great. Its ability is Aqua Patch, but you can attach the active as well. It's an ability though, so you know, I don't know if you're gonna have room to play your Abomasnow lines in your typical water deck. So I'm not the biggest fan of Abomasnow. But Glaceon GX is probably gonna be a deck that I'm gonna be playing a lot in the future. I am a big fan of Glaceon. I'm just a big fan of waters, you guys know. I've been playing a lot of Ninetales. This format because Ninetales is one of my favorite Pokemon, and it made me just like water as an archetype or as a type in the game right now. Glaceon has a really powerful ability in Freezing Stare. As long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, each of your opponent's Pokemon EX and GX Pokemon in play in your hand and in the abilities in their discard pile have no abilities except for Freezing Stare. So you're turning off your opponent's Lele's if you lead with this. Now obviously you have Eevee, you touch Water Energy, you use Eevee's ability to evolve directly into Glaceon as early as turn 1, which means your opponent can't even play Lele for Bridget a lot of the time, especially if you're going first. Lele is being able to disrupt your opponent to that extent is very powerful. Obviously, we have decks like Decidueye, Leafeon, as I was just mentioning, which can heal. anything that plays Lele, you have Zoroark. There's so many Pokemon with abilities. You have Volcanions, things like that. Like, they can't do anything against you because you just turn off their abilities, and it's just a yikes at that point. It's a super yikes, and it's pretty powerful. Being a water type means you have access to Aqua Patch. 200 HP is never that bad, and we have some pretty decent attacks here. Frozen Bullets does 90 damage and does 30 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Now, 30 damage is pretty interesting because you have Polar Spear here, which is 50 damage times the amount of damage counters on the Pokemon. So take that 30 damage. 30, so that's 3 damage counters. You do 50 for each one. You're doing 150 damage. 150 damage plus 30 is 180. So it's another way to like do a GX attack to knock out Pokemon from that damage position. And if you have a choice band, you're doing 210, which means altogether, which means you're knocking out things like Zoroark as well if you have a choice band. So you damage a Zoroark, you have a choice band, you Polar Spear them, and then you knock them out. Without a choice band, you knock out things like Lele's and Drabas and things like that. So Polar Spear, very, very, very powerful. It's a good GX attack to go on top of Frozen Bullet. Frozen Bullet's already powerful because with the choice band, you're doing 120 damage each time, which is a 2-hit KO, and it's really, really hard for your opponent to deal with. Because even if your opponent has cards like Acerola, you're damaging 2 Pokemon at once, so it's hard for your opponent to play around it. Glaceon GX, definitely a deck I'm playing. I'm 100% building once a set comes out. Once I can afford to buy all these ridiculous cards. We have 2 more Rotoms here, Wash Rotom and Frost Rotom. This is 50 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. It's whatever. And then this one does 20 damage for each energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. That could be useful if in the right matchups. A lot of the time it's not going to be that useful, but it is something worth mentioning. More Rotoms, Rotom. Let's see. Ooh, good. We have the dreaded line of item lock here. Let me see if I missed anything. It doesn't look like I have. All right, cool. I'm just looking at my list to make sure I haven't missed any cards that are worth talking about. It doesn't look like I have. Dope. All right, so we got Shinx here. This is the Shinx you're probably going to be playing. Has the ability Runaway Evolution. This Pokemon can evolve the turn it was played if it's the first turn of the player going second. So if you're going second on the first turn, then you can evolve directly into your Luxio, and Luxio is where the magic's at. Luxio has the attack Disconnect for a singular, colorless energy. You can item lock your opponent for 30 damage. Yahoo! We're back, boys. Item lock is... I'm so upset about this. I don't really care. I don't think item lock is amazing right now. Don't get me wrong. Item lock is so boring, bro. Item lock is so boring to play and so boring to play against. But you have item lock for single energy. You only have 80 HP, but we have some ways to work around that, and I'll talk about that shortly. But you can stop your opponent from playing their Ultra Balls for Lele's, their Rare Candies to evolve. That's really it. What else is that? I guess if your opponent plays puzzles, they can't play puzzles. E-Hammers either, but you're not worried about E-Hammers because you're not playing special energies. They can't touch tools, but you're a non-GX, so choice band isn't a big deal. I don't know. Item lock is in a weird place in standard. It can be slightly disruptive, but once your opponent bounces back, it's hard to beat them. In expanded though, this is going to be very powerful, just because of the lightning type Seismitoad. It's a non-GX Seismitoad. It's very, very strong. And then we have Luxray over here, which 150 HP and has the ability Intimidating Fang. As long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, your opponent's active Pokemon's attack do 30 less damage before applying weakness resistance, which is important because Buzzwole can't even damage this thing because you only hit for 30, right? So you actually hit for 0 damage with its ability being live. So that's something worth mentioning. And another thing that's worth mentioning is that because you can evolve your Luxio into Luxray, we have cards like Shining Celebi. That means you can use the previous attacks, including your Disconnect, while being a Luxio. So you're a higher HP Pokemon with a really decent bulky ability. Hold on, guys, setting myself up. That can take advantage of being an item lock deck. Also, it has the attack Voltage Arrow, which is a great way to finish off the game. Discard all lightning energy attached to this Pokemon. This attack does 150 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So it's 150 damage snipe to discard all your lightning, but it is pretty powerful. So this is a very scary thing, but something to look into. So definitely get yourself playsets of those. Pachirisu is something that people are looking into because of Raichu GX. This is something I'm going to be playing on the channel soon as well. And it's only because you have the attack Nuzzle, or it's the static generation, not Nuzzle. For each of your bench Pokemon with a Nuzzle attack, search your deck for a lightning energy and attach it to that Pokemon. So if you guys don't know, we have Pikachu with a Nuzzle attack. It's that full art Pikachu from Generations. It has the attack Nuzzle, and you can attach energy. You can attach energies to all your Pikachu. So it's just like, imagine Xerneas, but you can attach 3 or more per turn. Like 1, 2, 3, 4. You have a lot of ways to attach a bunch of energies on the field. I don't know if it's better than playing Electrode. It's something worth looking into. You're also trading away the ability of having a 70 HP Pikachu, which is pretty prevalent, for a 60 HP Pokemon, just to have the static generator effect live. We'll see how useful it is. I'm definitely going to play around with it. I can't really tell, but I would definitely get yourself a playset if you are a Raichu fan. Just because, I mean, overall, it's not even a bad attack, because we might even get more Nuzzle Pokemon in the future, who knows. But Pachirisu is something to look into. Get yourself a couple of those. We do have the other Rotom, I think it's the final Rotom. Plasma Slash is 120 damage, so it's the most powerful attacking Rotom, but 70 HP is pretty bad, so yikes. Drifloon was like incredibly overhyped when it came out. It has the attack damage transport move, 4 damage counters from each of your Pokemon to your opponent's active Pokemon. For a DC, it's not too bad, but it's low HP. That you're not going to be putting a lot of damage counters on your own Pokemon a lot of the time, yikes. Spiritomb is pretty lame now that we have Palpad, but I guess it's something worth looking into. For a colorless energy, you can put 2 supported cards from your discard pile to your hand. And if the defending Pokemon is a basic Pokemon, the defending Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. So it is a pretty cool support Pokemon, but I'm not terribly interested in it. We have Giratina Prism and we have Lunala Prism. They do 2 different things, but they're very, very cool if you are a Lunala GX fanboy. I've had a couple of them. I used to be one myself. I think it's a really cool card. But Giratina is pretty cool once we get more stronger Psychic type Pokemon in the format as well. It is the same thing as Darkrai GX. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to the field, you can attach 2 Psychic energies from your hand to Giratina. And its attack does 160 damage. We have to discard 2. But yeah, it's pretty cool if you want to swarm the field with energies. It's another option if you are playing Lunala, because you can move the energies off of the Giratina to whatever Pokemon you want to. So there's more energy acceleration. That's always nice. We have Lunala over here, Lunala Prism. First of all, the artwork is amazing. It's so adorable. I love it. But for each, it's the same thing as Solgaleo. Ooh, that Pokeball's gonna bother me. Oh God, go away. Go. Why are you there? Go away. You don't need to stay like this. For each of your opponent's Pokemon play, attach a Psychic energy from your discard pile to your Pokemon any way you like. So just like Solgaleo, but with Psychic type. And then Precise Storm does 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to all Pokemon in play. That's actually pretty powerful, especially when you combine it with Full Moon Star. Lunala decks are generally going to want to swarm the field with a bunch of energies anyway. You combine that with the energies your opponent has, and you're doing a lot of damage. So I like Lunala a lot. I can't wait to play around with it. And then Dawnwing's Necrozma is definitely something everybody should have a 1 or 2 of. It's very, very, very powerful. It's Rush In, but weak to Dark, which is unfortunate, but it's still Rush In, 180 HP, and it's an Ultra Beast. The next set's all about Ultra Beast, and I talked about it in a recent stream where I was talking about Naganadel and how powerful I think it's going to be. But Invasion means once during your turn, if this Pokemon is on your bench, you may switch it with your active Pokemon. So you attach a Flowstone to it, and you can retreat into anything you want every turn, as long as you have access to abilities. The tags aren't really worth mentioning. Flash of Darkness, you can just not think about resistance. For 3 Psychic, it's kind of awkward. And then Eclipse Moon GX is 180 damage, and this is whatever. Same thing as Solgaleo. But actually, you can prevent all effects of attacks, including damage on this Pokemon during your opponent's next turn. That's actually something I didn't know, so that's pretty cool. Overall, I think this is definitely something everybody should have 2 or 3, 2 of, at the very least 2 of. Actually, at the very least 1 of, but you should definitely try to get 2 of. Rampardos is kind of lame. Its attack means you can knock out any basic, but if you're attaching 3 fighting energies to a Pokemon, you should already be knocking out any basic. That's how I feel about it. We got the boy! By the way, if anybody gets these pre-release promo Lucarios and wants to donate them to your boy, please message me on Discord, on Twitter, on anything. I really, really want 3 of those boys, but I'm not going to any pre-releases because that is money I do not have. But Lucario is amazing. I'm so excited to play this deck. Once during your turn, if you have Garchomp in play, you may search your deck for 1 card and put it into your hand. It is the best search card to exist, as long as you have a Garchomp in play, which makes Garchomp Lucario very, very, very powerful. You have Scud Jab, 70 damage. I guess Choice Band plus Strong Energy does mean you get a knockout on Zoroark. Is something worth mentioning. I don't know how useful it is, but it's something worth mentioning. But you're usually using this for the ability. So I think this is the best Riolu as well. So because you have the Detect, which is pretty nice. So overall, pretty big fan. 1 retreat cost is not bad either. Being the Psychic is pretty decent right now because there's not a lot of good Psychic decks. So big fan of this. My boy is back, and he's ready to make an impact. Why is he in like this really dope stadium? you know what? Why would I even ask? This man is out here training. He's like, people be laughing at me lately. Ever since my EX came out and I was the best. Now look at me now. We coming back. We coming back. We just not attacking that much. That's my boy. I'm pretty excited. Pissimian's cool if you do play a Pissimian deck. As long as the Pokemon's on your bench, each of your Pissimians attack to 30 more damage to your opponent's active evolved Pokemon. It does help because evolved Pokemon usually have higher HP, which means it's higher for Pissimian to take those knockouts. How useful it is, I'm not too sure, but it is something worth mentioning. We do have the Garchomp line that we were just talking about. Hopefully I can play this deck today. I'll let you guys know on stream tonight how I feel about it. But Gibble has the attack Ascension. This is not the Gibble you're going to want to use though. It's lower HP. Ascension is cool because you can evolve directly to Gabite, but you don't really want to have your Gabite active. So what you're going to play is probably this Gibble right here. It's a higher HP number, which is prevalent. And then you have the ability, which means if you have fighting energy attached, you have a free retreat, which is really, really nice because you usually don't want to have your Gibble active until you're ready to attack with it. So on the other hand, we have Gabite here, which is a card you do want to have Ascension for because you can evolve directly into Garchomp. Everything else about this card is pretty awkward, but like Garchomp's where it's at, man. Garchomp's where it's at. 150 HP, which is actually not that much, but you got that Cynthia in the back. Oh my, look, that's my girl. The best Pokemon trainer in Pokemon history. Facts. Facts. Fight me. Fight me. She has the greatest team of all time. Wait till she gets a revamp. She's going to have a Mega. She's going to have a Z move. She's going to have freaking like Dragonium Z on this and Mega Lucario. Then you're all dead. You're all dead. Not to mention she's got that Togekiss. You just can't. She's just got that Togekiss. Anyways, Garchomp's my boy. Doing 200 damage with Champion Blade. 100 damage plus 100 if you use Cynthia that turn. Now, Cynthia's a good card. Being able to shuffle your hand, draw 6, it's already pretty useful. So, and being able to hit for 230 with a Choice Band is going to knock out anything. The only awkward part about it is that you can't play Guzma the same turn. You can play cards like Counter Catcher, and you can pretty much knock out anything in front of you. It's very unlikely you won't be able to knock out something. Like Decidueye is the only thing that comes to mind that you can't knock out, but you can use Quick Dive here, which is 50 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon, to put things in range as well, and that way you don't even need Choice Band. Overall, I think Garchomp's very, very strong. I think it's very cool. You can pair it with Lucario. If you want to knock out Zoroarks without the need to attack with Garchomp, you can pair with Lucario. That way you can Guzma up those Zoroarks and then have a Choice Banded Strong Energy Lucario ready to attack. I think Garchomp's really cool. I can't wait to play this deck. We'll see how good it is. I know we have a Lucario GX coming out that you can pair with this deck as well. And we'll see how good Counter Catcher is and everything like that. We'll see if it's useful. Overall, pretty excited about this. Fighting double colors, energy, attack cost with a free retreat, something worth mentioning, is pretty interesting as well. We have Palkia GX, which pales into comparison to its brother Dialga. Although it is a powerful GX attack, it's not as good and it's not as easy to set up because if it's not a water type, it's a dragon type, and which means you don't have access to Aqua Patch. Now, I know in the next set we do have alternate typings of Palkia being a water type. Overall, I still think it's a very heavy attack cost, but it might be easier to play then. But as far as what the attacks are, Spatial Control, move any number of energy cards from your bench Pokemon to this Pokemon. It's not something you really want to do. You want to keep your Pokemon set up in the back. Unless you're going all in on a Palkia, which his attacks aren't even that great. I think it's whatever. Hydro Pressure is pretty cool though. 60 damage plus 20 more damage for each water energy attached to this Pokemon. I think it replaces Keldeo, except for the ability wise. It kind of replaces Keldeo as your main attacker in like Aqua Box. I want to say not Aqua Box, but like Deluge, Blastoise kind of decks. 60 damage, and if you have like 5 water energies, you're doing 100 extra damage, which is 160, 190 with a Choice Band. Obviously, that's a lot of water energies you want to have attached, but it is something worth mentioning. And then Zero Vanishing GX is powerful, but just not in our current format. 150 damage, and your opponent shovels all energies attached to their Pokemon into their deck. Now, most of the time, your opponents are attacking with just DCEs in our current format. There's very few matchups where you want to get rid of all of their energies on the board at once. So maybe in the future, we have more metal-esque decks and it's worth playing and it's easier to set up, but for now, meh. And it's even more annoying. I know it's not this one in particular, but in the water version that comes out, it's also weak to grass, which I was hoping that it wouldn't be weak to grass, so you would have another option to play Lapras in the format again with a different weakness Pokemon, but you just don't because it's weak to grass. Whatever. That's a rant for another day. Moving on. Nothing really to talk about here. Yeah, we have Order Pad. I'm not too sure how good Order Pad is. It really just depends on the deck and how much space you have. Being able to flip a coin and search for any card, for any item card in your deck is pretty nice. But it's a flip effect, so it's automatically just not that great. Crushing Hammer reprint, Ultra Ball, of course. Looker's Whistle is cool because you can get those Lookers. I already talked about what Looker does, but we're going to look at Looker in a second. Escape Board is the Death of Float Stone, and I really hope that's not the case, but it's looking like it's the case. It's a tool card, which means your retreat cost is 1 colorless less, which is awkward because a lot of these good cards have a 2 retreat cost, which means that you still have to lose energy when retreating, but you can retreat while asleep or paralyzed, which is handy, I suppose. We'll see in the future how good it is. We have these supporters, of course, Cynthia, the money card in the set. Definitely try to get yourself 4 Cynthias. Vulcaner is cool in Lightning decks, because that means you don't have to play Skyla anymore most of the time. You can't switch for supporters like Skyla can, but usually you're only playing Skyla to get things like rare candies or choice bands or ultra balls or stuff like that. So Vulcaner is pretty powerful because you can get an item card and a lightning energy, and you don't have to get the lightning energy. I know somebody was telling me that, oh, but sometimes I don't keep my lightning energy in my Vikabulu deck. Well, I mean, that's fine. You can just keep it in there if you really want to, but being able to have that option to put into your hand in case you need a manual attachment for the turn, it's always really nice. So Vulcaner replaces Skyla in some decks. Looker, we already talked about. Draw 3 from the bottom of your deck. It's whatever. Super Boost Energy. It's a quadruple Rainbow Energy on stage 2s only if you have 3 stage 2s on the board at once. If you attach this to a stage 2, it's a Rainbow Energy without the damage. And if you have 3 stage 2s on the board at one time, it is 4 Rainbow Energies without the damage. But if you have 4 stage 2s on the bench, 3 stage 2s at a bench at once, then you're usually winning. I can't think of many prevalent decks that would have that. Guardy doesn't really care. I guess it's a one of in Guardy, just because Guardy's going to have Gardevoirs and Gallades, but Guardy's not going to be super prevalent anymore because there's a lot of metal in the format that's terrifying Gardevoir. Other cards, Decidueye, you don't really care because you're not attacking with Decidueye, so that's how I feel about it. Here's the other unit energy. This one's cool because you can play Solgaleo Lunala decks because it's both psychic and metal, electric as well. But overall, I don't think that card's very interesting. I mean, it is interesting. You should definitely get yourself a 4 of copy, like I did mention earlier. But I don't know. We'll see what decks come out in the future. That would really appreciate that card. But overall, thank you guys all so much for watching. If you haven't already, drop a like. That is every card in this set that I know of is going to be in this set. I don't know about other cards in the future. Looker, you can get the off screen a little bit. You know, just leave these bad. Never mind. Leave these lovely people to take the screen. But regardless, drop a like if you have not already. It is always greatly appreciated. I know the video was 50 minutes long, but trust me, that's on the low end. We talked about so many cards, and I didn't do what I usually do, which is like look over each and every card. I did want to talk about only the prevalent cards. I did look over each and every card on stream to prepare for this video, if you guys want to check that out. But overall, thank you guys all for hanging out with me today. Drop a like if you haven't already. Let me know what your favorite card is in this set. What you're looking forward to the most in the set. What card do you feel like I missed and didn't talk about that I should have talked about? Because I'll probably like pin those comments if I feel like it's worth mentioning. And overall, let me know what you think about this. Let me know what decks you want to see me play first when the set comes out as well. And let me know what decks you want to see me, what deck builds you want to see. Just let me know everything. Everything that you want to let me know, do it. Because I do want to upload deck lists before the set comes out. I want to upload some challenges before the set comes out. Everything, all that good jazz. So regardless, drop a like if you haven't already subscribed to all that good jazz. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.